What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Snack Time. My name is Ben, and in today's video, we are going to build our very own search engine. So we're going to be using a software that's been out for quite a while, right? It's called searx-ng, and it is basically a way for you to run your own search engine. And the reason that you may want to do that is really privacy concerns, and maybe you want something to search through multiple search engines and provide you results from all the different ones. That's another reason, but I think it's primarily because of security. A lot of search engines will look at your traffic and look at the things you're searching for and kind of build a profile about you, and that way they can serve you advertisements a little bit better. searx-ng does not have any sort of advertisements in it, so you won't get a bunch of sponsored content. You will just get good search results. I personally use it all the time it's my primary search engine. I host it myself, and I pretty much use that instead of any of the other ones. I even have it set up on my phone, and I do have mine internet facing, so if I am out and about, I can still maintain my privacy by using my own search engine. Yeah, so I think it's kind of cool. I think you guys will enjoy it. Well, let's go ahead and jump in. Let me just show you a little bit about it. Not too much to cover, and then we'll jump into the installation. That's a little bit more lengthy, but I think we'll be able to knock it out pretty quickly. So there are a bunch of other videos out there about it, but I think what I want to do is really gear this one to being as simple as possible, and so you can get up and running. We're going to be using Docker, we're going to be using Nginx Proxy Manager, and we're also going to be using Portainer. If you have those set up, you're good to go. If not, there is a video that I released not too long ago that is about setting up your own virtual private server on a budget, and it'll walk you through the installation of all three of those different softwares. So let's do some searching. So say I wanted to search for snack time. And if I just type that in, this is one that I just set up real quick. So we can see that came up with snack being the first one. Oh well. and my website being the second one. But what I really wanted to show you here is this section right here where it says search URL. Gives me the exact URL I can use. But this one right here, the response time. So these are all the different search engines that it used to give me these results, and these are the response times for those different search engines. So it uses it doesn't spider, sites, itself. It uses kind of the big search engines as like an upstream, but it doesn't provide a bunch of information to it like if you were going straight to those search engines. Also can give you suggestions if you want to, but I think that's pretty cool. One other thing that it does that a lot of the other big ones do is you can search specifically for images. You can do videos, news, maps, music, IT, science, files, and also social media. So it does a little bit more. It also allows you to specify safe search being on or off, as well as specifying your search time. So maybe you want to limit your results. You can do that. Let's hit images, and I doubt we're going to see too many things for snack time. Not too bad. Picked up a couple of my logos and everything. Let's say we wanted to search for cats and dogs. And so it's not going to be as, obviously as snappy as like the regular ones, but it is pulling a lot of data and doing it really quickly. All right, so if we can look at any of these images, just clicking on them, and it gives us information about the image, where it is, dimensions, and everything else. All this is, like I said, you can specify some customization here. We can also move on to videos. If there's specific videos that you're looking for, it'll find them here. And then we can move on to maps. It's not like Google Maps, right? It just basically gives you links to like Open Street View and everything. And so it's not a complete replacement for Google, obviously, by any stretch, but it is great for searching. I don't really use it from too much else. And you can pick up news as well. IT. Pick up Datadog. Files, if you're searching for specific files online, this one will do that for you. That's kind of cool. And again, you can kind of see that's it's searched by these different providers, not condoning Pirate Bay, obviously, but there are some that you can also, you'll have to specify like an API to search through them. And I'll show you that in the configuration part a little later on in this video when we install it. But these are all customizable too. You can pick and choose which search engines you ingest your feed from. And then we have social media, and it'll do a search across, I guess, different social media platforms. Looks like it did all these little ones here. So we do have some preferences at the top we can click on. And from here, this is mostly about preferences for the user that is currently using it, not so much like platform wide. So anything that you change in here obviously is not going to stay. It's going to be specific to this person, probably as long as the cookie lives in their browser. So we can change, the interface. We can change privacy. We can change the engines that we'll be using. Like maybe we want to include this one or this one, but not this one. And you see these are all the different ones that it can hit. These are the response times, I believe, over here, or the max time rather, that it will wait to get a search result. And you have your reliability too. So other than that, very customizable, even at the user's level. And all the things that you see here can be changed like globally and in the settings file that we'll take a look at in a little bit. So without further delay, let's go ahead and set up our own search engine on our virtual private server, and we can start using it just like this one. Let's go ahead and jump over, and I'll see you there in just a second. So we're going to start our journey at the GitHub page for SearXNG, and there's some really good resources here. Specifically, the documentation that is available on the homepage is extremely helpful, especially if you're doing any sort of customization of this software. There is some Docker images here that we can use. We can click on this link, and this will help you set it up with Caddy. We're not going to be using Caddy, we'll be using Nginx, but it's the thought that counts. You can click here and it will walk you through and give you some good information on how to do this. It does give you a Docker command. We're not going to be using any of this right here. We are going to be using one that we've set up. It looks like there's a Docker compose file here as well that is very close to what we'll be using. So we'll be using something very similar to this, right? But we won't be using Caddy. We will be using Redis. That will help caching, and so it provides your results a little bit quicker, especially if you search for the same thing. And the rest of this stuff will be very close to what we'll be using. What I did for my installation, and feel free to modify yours if you want, I set up one on our GitHub page that is just a little bit different than theirs. I set up, if you go under our GitHub/SYNACK time and go under YouTube and Sear, here's my Docker compose file. So again, very similar. Caddy is removed, and it's just configured to do pretty much everything very similar to the other one. So I'm going to be using this one. If you decide to use the one on the provided page, that's totally up to you. There's a lot of similarities. I think there's some things that are removed here or there, but for the most part, it's pretty much the same. Let's see. All right, so let's go ahead and head over to Snack Time, and let's copy this raw file here, and let's go over to Portainer. All right, so now let's go to Stacks and add, and let's just call it SearXNG and paste it here. And so what I like to do next is the same thing I do with every video, is I take a look at the compose file and we kind of look at it and we know exactly what it's doing, so we know what to expect. Let's zoom in a little bit. All right, so we are starting off with our Redis. This is just giving it a name. Here's the image that we're going to be pulling and the command that it's going to be running. All of this you don't really need to touch. Setting up temporary file system, that's fine. This is a very interesting one that I don't see too often. This is defining the capabilities of our Linux container that's running. We're going to by default drop everything, but only add its ability to do these actions. That's very, very secure, but definitely not something a lot of people do. Our restart policy is always, which means our server ever reboots, it's always going to come back up, even if you stopped it before the reboot. Moving on, we have our Sear container name being established. The image is going to be pulling the latest one. We're going to be joining the searx-ng network. That was also up here too. Pretty straightforward. Just going to be joining the same networks. We're going to be defining some ports that are going to be listening. We don't really need to do this because our ports are going to be, or rather our traffic is going to be forwarded all the way through Nginx Proxy Manager. So there's really no need for us to expose any open ports. If you were going to run this locally and you weren't going to use Nginx Proxy Manager, these are good things to go ahead and not comment out. So just something to think about. For our volumes, we're going to be setting this up as a mapped volume to Sear, and we're going to be mapping that over to the Etsy searx-ng and giving it rewrite privileges. Next up, we're going to be defining our URL. So this is the URL that we're going to be going to online. So when we type in search.synhow.com, it just needs to know what that is. And the URL for Redis should not change because your Redis container name is probably going to be called Redis as well, so you don't really need to change that. We should change our secret to something else, like just use a random password manager to generate a random series of characters, just so you have a different secret. So let's do that really fast. I'm just going to go ahead and copy one just so we're secure. Perfect. All right, the next couple of things that I want to cover, I ran into issues with. This one does the same capabilities of, drop all the capabilities and only add these. But when you first set this up, it needs to configure a settings.yml file. And if you go with these, you're going to run into some issues because it's not going to have the right privileges to perform that action. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to temporarily comment them out, but I can come back in later on and remove the comments and really restrict the Linux containers permissions if you want to. It's not necessary, especially if you're hosting it locally. You may not care, but if it's something other people are going to be accessing, you may want to limit, in case someone gains access to the container, you may not want it to be able to do a whole heck of a lot. Again, restart policy is about the same. Logging, this is how we're going to be handling our logging variables. Basically, we're going to be setting up a JSON type log file, maximum size of 1 megabyte, maximum of 1 file. If you have no intention of logging anything, want to be very, very private, feel free to comment this out as well. And now we're establishing our network down here at the bottom, as well as our volume. So we're going to be doing that. No environment variables really to speak of that we need to set up down here. They are being set up here at the top. Zoom out and let's go ahead and deploy our stack. One thing that I do want to do is I want to make sure that it is able to create that settings YAML file. So I'm going to go into my stacks here under Sear, and I'm going to look at the console or the logs right here. So I'm going to click on this little button right there. That'll show me the logs. And as long as I don't see any error messages about the inability to create a settings file, should be good to go. And we're going to actually be looking at that settings file here in just a second too, but we should be fine. Let's go ahead and before we jump into that settings file, let's finish up our configuration for the Sear. I'm just going to call it Sear. It feels weird calling it searx-ng. It's just a mouthful. All right, so what we need to do is we need to configure Nginx Proxy Manager to be on the same network as Sear so that it can communicate with that container. So let's go under our Nginx app here. I'm going to move myself up. I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom, and we're going to make sure that we're joined to the same network. Okay, we are, and that's fine. That was from a previous installation. Most likely what you're going to see is something like this. You're going to see it not in here, and you're going to just click on it right there and hit join. And then, yeah, so we're picking up an IP address. We're on the same network. Everything is happy. All right, so now that we're able to communicate, we do need to set ourselves up a subdomain. We go over to, I'm going to be using Namecheap. That's just the DNS server that I'm using, but you may have something different. Either way, you're just going to create an A record for our synhow.com domain here. And the A record allows us to establish a subdomain so that anything that's in front of this synhow, that's what we're going to be, that's going to be the subdomain. And in our instance, we're going to be creating one. I'm just going to add a new record, an A record, and I'm just going to call it search. So our subdomain is going to be search.synhow.com. Pretty straightforward, right? We do that under the advanced DNS settings under Namecheap. And so what we need is we also need our externally facing IP address for our server, which so happens to be this right here. Just going to copy and paste it, and we're going to save changes. Alrighty, all saved. So our domain should be our search.synhow.com should be pointing to this IP address. Now we just need to provide a little bit of guidance, and we'll be doing that with Nginx Proxy Manager. All right, once we're here, we're going to go to proxy hosts. We're going to add a proxy host, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see it really clearly. Our domain is going to be search.synhow.com. Boom. And now it's asking us, okay, well, got your domain. Where do you want to send all this traffic going to come into this domain? Where do you want it to go? We want it to go to the Sear container. Do not use the IP address. It's just a big pain in the butt because if that IP address ever changes, your stuff's going to break. What we do want to use is the host name. So let's do this. Find our host name. Host name is going to be the container name. Very easy. So we go under containers. Here's our host name right here. I'm sure we could have just typed it. That's fine. And we're going to paste it. What I want you to do is make sure that there are no spaces. If you have a space, something like this, not going to work. Always make sure no spaces in front or behind. Now it wants to know the port. So it's asking us, what port is this container listening for traffic on? Not a hard question to answer. The best way to answer that question is to go back to the compose file. So if we look down here, here's our ports. We have 8888 and then 8080. The first one on the left is the port that would have been exposed to the internet. The second port is the port that the container is expecting to see traffic on. So this is basically, it's port forwarding from this port to that one. But the only one that we really need is this second one over here onto the right. I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to paste it. I could have just typed it, whatever. All right, so let's do this. I'm going to also block common exploits. I'm going to enable WebSocket support, and I'm going to hit save. Now that we have that done, it is unencrypted. Let's add ourselves a nice, pretty little SSL cert. I'm going to edit this guy. I'm going to zoom in again. I'm going to click SSL. I'm going to drop this down and hit request a new one. I'm going to force SSL. Don't want to give you the option. And I'm going to agree to the terms of service. We're going to hit save. You did everything in the same order that I'm doing it. That shouldn't be a problem. This little white box should just go away and we shouldn't have any issues. If you got an error message, do yourself a favor, wait for a little while, or check the spelling. Make sure that the thing that you typed into the domain is exactly the same thing as you have, in your DNS settings there. Sometimes it's just a fat finger, and that's okay. So we've mapped the port, we've done everything, and we should be able just to hit our site up and go and just see what it looks like. So let's click on this link right here. And here we go. We have our site. Let's look for dogs and cars. Oh, no, not cars. That might be a bad search. Dogs and cars don't get along. All right, so there we go. Got our search coming up, pretty snappy. Got good response time, 1 second for all these search engines, not too bad. All right, so now that we have that set up, we could call it a day and say, hey, everything works great, I love it. Let's go on about my business. But what I do want to offer you is just a little bit of something extra and show you how to configure the extra settings globally. It's a little bit more complicated, but I think you're very well capable of handling it. Something to keep in mind also, if you go to their main page here, this docs.searx-ng.org, this is all the documentation that you would ever need how to configure it. But they've also done a really good job of documenting the settings.yml file and explaining everything that's in there. What we need to do is we do need to go to that volume that we just set up. So let's head over to Portainer and let's go to volumes. Now let's go to our searx-ng, and we see that the path is right here. Var lib docker volume searx_data. You will need to be root in order to gain access to this folder, but lucky for you, I've already done that. All right, let's do this. I'm going to make this window just a hair bigger. I want you to be able to see it. All right, and so we could simply just really copy this URL, the URL, this path, and just do cd space that. And there we go. We're in the exact folder that we need to be in. All right, so there's our settings. I'm going to use Vim. Feel free to use Nano, whatever Linux text file editor you prefer. All right, so these are all the different settings that you can configure with your new searx-ng search engine. You can change the instance name. If you want there to be a donation URL, you can do that, enable it. I am not going to run through this. I'm going to tell you why I'm not going to do this whole thing. Watch this. I'm going to hit page down a whole bunch of times. There's a lot of stuff. So you probably want to take your time and look through this entire thing on your own, but you really probably don't need me explaining every single thing to you. It's very well documented. I mean, everything's commented, so you shouldn't have a problem finding, the thing that you're concerned about. So a couple things. Obviously, you don't want to touch the ports or the IP addresses. Everything's working fine there. What is mostly what people usually come in here for is really to customize the search engines that it's using kind of globally, and not just allowing somebody to use this search engine or this one. And that's totally cool, or to enable additional ones. Some of them do require APIs, and you will specify the APIs here. So let's do this. Yeah, so like that, you can change all this stuff. This is really cool. Let's see, additional tests. Yeah, yada yada yada. Let's do a search for just Google. Say we wanted to not have Google be a part of our search engines. So there's the first one. Let's see, Google Images. That's all well and good. Google Name. See, these are all the things that we can customize about the Google search engine. So here we go. Google Play apps. A lot of them will have this disabled true. If you change that to false, it will no longer be disabled. And let's see. Yeah, so here's one. This is a good example. This one's like for YouTube. It says you can use the engine using an official stable API, but you need an API key. So this one requires an API key for you to be able to start searching a lot of like YouTube videos, which, that might be a really good thing. Right now it's using the YouTube no API key, and that may not be good enough for you. It says, or you can use the HTML non-stable engine activated by default. So what you would do is you would most likely come in here and you would say, you know what, I'm going to uncomment this out, and I'm going to uncomment this out, specify my IP, my API key, and then I'll be off to the races. I'm not going to go through that right now, but there is some documentation you can always pull up. It's very easy to do, especially if you're familiar with the Google API. Again, as you go down this list, there's additional search engines that you can enable or disable, or add, like the API keys as necessary. So there are a lot of things that you can customize with this. My goal for this video was really just to get you up and going. And then from there, I want you to take some time, maybe use some ChatGPT and really kind of figure out what you would like to have enabled or disabled. Or if you just want to use it out of the box, kind of like what I did, there's really no harm in that either. Really rely on the documentation and also AI. All right, let's see here. So the last thing that we want to look at is the things that we kind of commented out before we wrap this up. I just want to show you how you can re-enable them if you want to. If we go under stacks and searx-ng and go under editor, we can scroll down, and if we wanted to, we could come in here and we could uncomment out these, especially if you were okay with what it created and you don't need it to create any more settings XMLs. But if you ever experience like any problems with permissions, this will probably be a great place for you to take a look. All right, so let's go ahead and update this. Okay, it's updated. And in a second here, when it gets done rebooting, there we go. Still accessible. It almost made a liar out of me. All right, so you should be good to go. Really appreciate you guys sticking around and watching this video. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them down below. And really happy you spent so much time with me today. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. You guys take it easy.